Yes, welcome, John. Today I have John Lewis with me, who is a performance mindset and professional development coach, working with individuals, sports teams, businesses, and helping them to overcome the obstacles that can stop them from getting the results they want. Also, as a passionate first aid for mental health trainer, John delivers training courses, helping people have better awareness of mental health, helping to break the stigma. So welcome, John, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Lydia. It's an absolute pleasure. When you read that out, it almost makes me feel, that imposter syndrome. Really? Do I do that? Do I do that? I actually sent you that bio and I'm reading that thinking, oh yeah, I do that.
Yeah, you do indeed. You do indeed. That is yourself. So I met John a couple of years ago now at college, when you had just finished your master NLP practitioner training just before I did mine. Yeah. And I know that you went on to be a trainer in mental health first aid, and that's why I wanted to have a quick conversation with John today regarding mental health, World Mental Health Day, which is on Sunday, the 10th of October. So it would be good to have a little conversation with you, John, about your take on mental health. What is it? How do you get good mental health and all that? So, but first of all, maybe give us a little introduction to you and what is it you do?
Wow, that's always the thing when people say, what do you do? And again, it was like that bio you read. Oh yeah, what do I do? So I think everything you said there, Lydia, thank you for the introduction, by the way. Everything you said there, yeah, it's about, it's a kind of driven passion I have, Lydia, very much like yourself and the relationship we built, to help other people, help other people reach their potential, overcome the obstacles that are stopping them. We're no exclusive from it, Lydia. We have our own challenges, we have our own things that maybe stop us, but it's great where we can have tools with the NLP. And again, Lydia, I know you've gone on and done massive amounts of trainings. You've got a lot of different tools in your toolbox, but just having that confidence, all in a coaching framework, to be able to actually sit with a client or sit with a group of people, whether I'm working in a team environment or a business environment, and just helping them to maybe think in a way that they've not thought. I always say, help people find those little differences that will make a massive difference, especially in the sporting sense, because again, mindset and performance is a newish kind of thing where clubs realize it's not just about the physical side of training. It's how we're thinking. We're only as good as we think we are, Lydia. We're only as good as we think we are. And again, it's great that I can work with businesses, sports teams, whether that's individuals or as a collective, just to get them thinking outside the box, thinking the next level, thinking, well, what would that look like if we were to kind of go on and create this victory that we couldn't see, or create this outcome that we didn't believe we could have. And it's just taking people up the level of where they are and where they believe they are, but also helping them to believe they can do so much more than what they currently believe. And I think with that, Lydia, on that sense, the mental health side of this is something I'm passionate about, because again, I think as coaches, as therapists even, when we're one-to-one with people, we need to have an understanding about the deeper kind of thought processes. I mean, I'm no mental health expert in a sense of, I can't treat people with schizophrenia or treat people with bipolar, and I wouldn't confess to. I always say I need to know where my skill set kind of ends, and then where even I need to know to signpost certain people on to. But when you offer somebody a confidential environment, all kind of things come out, Lydia, as you well know with what you do. If somebody comes in because they're stuck in an area of their life, and it's because of something deeper, not just a lack of, say, confidence or belief, but depression or anxiety, or they're anxious about this, or so there's a whole host of things. So I think for me to have a knowledge around mental health myself, even before I train other people to do it, was crucial in any person's practice. Again, professionally, personally, I think the knowledge around mental health is something we should all have, because we all have mental health. Am I going on, Lydia? Because once I get on the talk, I like to talk about it.
There's so many touch points there that stuff came into my head too. And I think, to pick out some of those points, like you say, even as coaches, we have all these resources and tools, but we're still human beings, and there can still be times that things can be challenging to us. And that's one of the reasons that I also am passionate about raising awareness and understanding. And I wanted to go on to talk a bit more about, people recognizing signs, but also normalizing things that we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. And as you said, what's happening in the mind affects the body, and vice versa. How healthy the body is will affect how well the mind is working. And so that they are, there is an interplay there. And I also have a belief that, all of us should have a basic understanding of mental well-being, and recognizing the symptoms maybe if when things are getting a bit tricky. And then also something else I want to touch on today was how we support people, because I think the thing is that often it's the people around you that might notice that you're being different rather than yourselves. When we're in it, sometimes we don't always recognize that things have changed for us because it's almost insidious. And so it's the people that are around us and the people that live with us that'll maybe notice that our behaviors have changed, because that might be one of the first thing you notice. So yeah, we'll rewind a bit to the bit about what is mental health, and you're the professional trainer here, so I'll give you the floor. How do you classify what is mental health?
Oh, you put me on the spot, Lydia. So mental health in its short is how we think, feel and behave. And again, it was a touch point you raised. We all have mental health, and there is still a stigma. When I've even spoken to people, Lydia, and I've said, how's your mental health today? I don't have mental health. Well, actually, you do have mental health. You may not have a mental health problem, or you may not need support with your mental health right now, but you have mental health, like you have physical health. Again, something you touched on. And I think in some areas and in some kind of still, draconian kind of thinking with people, Lydia, is, to be able to speak about mental health is still uncomfortable for some people, because as soon as you say the word mental health, people automatically think problem.
Yeah.
I could be generalizing here, Lydia, I could be deleting and distorting, but again, this is kind of the perception I get, is it's still a stigma just around that title, mental health. And I think for something we all have, we're in and around our own mental health daily. And I think we know what works well for us when we may be struggling or feeling stressed or having an off day. That is affecting our mental health. That's affecting our mental health. But to actually, for people to have it labeled, well, that is your mental health, it's still a taboo. I can still see where the stigma is regarding it. So be able to train people in, again, basic knowledge. The training doesn't qualify anybody to be a mental health professional. We leave that to the professionals. But for people to have the confidence just to have a supportive conversation with somebody who may be struggling. Like you said, Lydia, the behaviour, you'll notice the behaviour in somebody. We notice it in ourselves at times, but as you said, when we're living it, we don't notice it at times, do we? It might take our partner to say, you look a bit off today, or you okay? For you then to say, well, actually, I'm a bit of struggle today. I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go for a run. And I think that's the crucial thing with it, Lydia, is notice it in ourselves, but also noticing the behaviour in other people. And again, it's an analogy I always use. You go to a doctor. If a doctor saw 10 broken legs, they can x-ray the broken legs and say that's broken. With mental health, yes, we can x-ray brains and brain functions and things to get an idea of the brain, but there's only one person who knows exactly how they're thinking or feeling, and that's the person themselves. So I think for us as decent human beings, if we do notice somebody is struggling, you just ask, an open question. How are you? I notice you're a little bit off today. Whether they give you the response that they honestly want to give you, Lydia, is a different thing altogether. But I think as human beings, decent human beings, Lydia, and I'd like to think the majority of the world are decent human beings, just to have the confidence to notice somebody isn't looking their best or doing something a little bit out of sorts, to then open that conversation. How are you today?
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
are you today?
Yeah. I think we can't underestimate the value and the impact of actually just stopping and turning towards someone and being really present with them and holding that space of really genuinely inquiring as to how they are. Because certainly in those moments where you're feeling very lone, you can feel very alone in that lowness. And it's when the hopelessness of the future and how could it be any different, and also the helplessness of how do I get out of this, or how can I make a change? Am I even able to make a change? When those factors come together, that really, when you're really low in mood, that things start to get a bit more hazardous, and so someone stopping and actually having that time can help lift, that feeling alone, or maybe helping you look at different options that you can start to become, as you say, unstuck, that actually maybe it's not completely hopeless. Maybe there are things that, I can get support in this. And I think that's a key thing, is recognizing you're not meant to do this alone. We're a social species, and you're not alone. And there are people that care. And if you don't have someone in your inner circle you feel you can talk to, there's certainly plenty of support networks out there. And I will pop them at the bottom of this podcast and video so that people have those. But holding just space and time for someone can't be undervalued. That can make a huge difference to someone's day. Definitely.
And again, I think even on that, Lydia, if we're holding somebody's space, reminding that person that they're not going to feel like this forever, also asking them, well, have you felt like this before? What do you like to do when you feel like this? We had a little talk off air before we obviously record. I'm a runner. I like to run. That's my time. That's my space. That's my mobile office where I do my best thinking. That's where my adrenaline flows, and if I'm feeling stressed because of a situation, I'll go for a run. That situation's still here, Lydia. But when I finish my run, I've had that time and I'm present and that adrenaline's flowing and I've had time to think things over. That situation, then I can give it a different perspective because mentally I'm in a better place to kind of face this. And again, I know this isn't the case for everybody, Lydia, because people obviously do need more support than just a run. But I think it's crucial that people know what works for them when they're struggling, or, they're not feeling their best, or times are stressful. Because I think with some people, Lydia, they feel stressed. And because of that, the stress kind of overtakes them to the point of, well, I don't really want to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and ponder on the stress. And again, this isn't me saying that's right or that's wrong, Lydia, because everybody's different. But I know for a fact it would be more useful to that person if they were to get up, again, that physiological, mental connection, get up, move your body, go for a walk, go outside, connect with people, just come away from that anchored spot where you may be stressed, go away and look at it from a different perspective. And again, I think for us to support people, hold that space, but also ask people, okay, at a time like this, what do you like to do? What do you do that makes you feel good when you feel like this?
And I think that key thing of movement can be so helpful to you. As you mentioned, you get the flow of the feel good chemicals that go through your body that can change how you're actually feeling, changing your posture and sitting up, because people that are low or struggling tend to start curling in on themselves. And that's the thing, it's that inward insular thing that everything closes in around you that can start to feel like quite a dark place. So yes, changing your environment and getting out can be really helpful. But I don't know about yourself, John, if you've ever struggled with depression. I have in my past, and to be honest, all these things but to actually get yourself up and out is incredibly hard. So I know, on the one hand, that might seem flippant, just saying, oh, just get yourself up and out, and this is one of the things of noticing that, maybe you do need to reach out and get more support and potentially speak to a professional, is when you're noticing that you just can't, that's the difference. You can't just pull yourself together. That old phrase that people used to say, it's not as simple as that. So I mean, looking at maybe some signs that are turning up, because really, it's the pervasiveness of it. We all have blue days. We all have days where we struggle and we can't get clear, and we don't want to move. But really, anything sort of past 2 weeks, 4 weeks, if you're starting to struggle, what are the sort of signs that you would say that maybe someone's mental health is starting to make a downward climb? Or conversely, what are the signs of good mental health?
Let's take them one at a time then, Lydia. So let's start with the kind of the say the negative sides of the mental health. And again, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody's individual with how they do things when they're struggling. But I guess signs to look out for: social isolation, changes in behaviour. That might not just be that isolation and that kind of inward behaviour, but erratic behaviour also. People drinking more, maybe even being a bit more reckless than usual in some respects. The simple, the language as well, Lydia. I'm feeling hopeless, I'm feeling worthless, and to the extreme, which really pains me. I'm having suicidal thoughts. All these kind of telltale signs. It's like I say, it's not just like a book of 5 or 6. If that person as an individual and they're out of character, that is the time to have a conversation with them. That is the time to have a conversation with them. They might be doing okay, or they might say they're doing okay and really they're not. But again, we can't x-ray their mind. But for a lot of people, Lydia, knowing somebody is out there to support them, be it a professional like us or family, friends, can be therapy in itself. That can be therapy in itself. Sorry about that location change.
So we're going to talk a bit more about what are the building blocks, the foundations for good mental health?
Okay, good. So again, it can be very individual. What works for one person may not work for another. But there's 5 steps to well-being that the NHS recommend, which I always think you tick them off. You think yes, 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 yes. I will say what they are, Lydia. But it was funny actually, because I did a like an online performance and well-being talk for a volleyball club last week, and one of the questions I asked was, why do you love playing volleyball? And I asked 5 or 6 of the people, and not one of them actually mentioned volleyball in itself. It was a case of, well, I like being with my teammates. So there's one of the well-being, the connecting. One was, well, I learn new skills. So there's 2, learning, because it keeps our brain nice and active. 3 is obviously the exercise, so the physiology and the movement and getting the chemicals moving and moving our body in that physical sense. 4, one person loved it because they love the buzz from scoring points. So there we're giving. When their team was scoring points, they love the camaraderie and that quick kind of dopamine hit of that togetherness. And one that no one mentioned, but I'm a massive advocate of it, is that kind of being present and being mindful. And again, I talk to children, yes, have your screen time because you like your dopamine in these games, but get out in nature, and I think as adults, we take that for granted. Leave the phones at home, get outside, listen to the birds, and just feel that wind on your face and all that sun on your hair, and just be here now, Lydia. Be here now, because I think just with the day and age and with technology, and Lydia, we're all guilty of it, sitting in front of a laptop, because of businesses. And at times I have to say to myself, I need to get outside. I need to be doing something where I'm here and now. For me, spending time with my family and being with the dog. just all these things that are here, not kind of looking on the sky. I know I'm present with you here, Lydia, but it's you know, all these kind of things now that are there to not distract us purposely, but are there, and as humans we kind of engage into them, aren't we? We're being pulled to these things that are great, but they kind of take away from, I think, what is important.
Yeah, and you mentioned pets there. I'm glad you mentioned pets, because I certainly feel that pets are a big one, of, you know, being that listening ear and that interaction and the touch as well. So yeah, pets definitely. And certainly dogs have taken a rise, haven't they? And people wanting dogs during lockdown. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of other people are recognising that.
We were guilty of that. Yeah, but she's absolutely amazing. You know, she's fantastic. She's like having a little child all over again. At least we could take our children into pubs when they were younger and just keep them in the pram. You know, we've got to be planning everything 3 weeks ahead with a dog to make. Do they have dogs? Can we do this? Can we do this? But it's brilliant. Yeah, she's fantastic.
So the other one that being focusing myself as a coach on emotional well-being, I would also throw into the ring there of being able to recognize, identify, process, and also show emotion and feeling, that you actually understand what it is that's coming up for you. And emotional literacy is really important, because once you understand how you're feeling, then that's giving you, it's just a feedback basically, your emotions and feelings telling you about your situation, and being able to process that, and then being able to show and talk about it. And, you know, certainly for men, we know in our society that that can be maybe frowned upon, as to men to show their emotions and feelings, that vulnerability, and that's certainly seems to be shown to, you know, be connected with mental well-being. And you know, again, that culture, I've mentioned it before in other podcasts about, you know, big boys don't cry, or that, you know, showing emotion is a weakness. And actually I would say it's the opposite. Anyone who's tried to wear their heart on a sleeve will know how much courage you need to have to be authentic and vulnerable, that actually that's quite a sign of strength normally. So, you know, what's your take on sort of the being able to show and express and feel and identify your feelings as a man?
You've asked the right man that question, because I always get the mick taken out of me by my children and wife that I'm very much a heart on my sleeve kind of person. I've never been afraid to show my emotions, and I think again it shows good skills to my children, that talking about how you're feeling and being open is good. It's good, because then that's where, I guess, especially, you know, I don't know a great deal into the depth of what you do, Lydia, but once you kind of acknowledge that trauma or acknowledge that emotion, that's then where the healing starts. That's where the progress starts. And I think once we start to bottle things up, again, this is where it can then become a downward spiral if we're doing it for too long. We've got to have a release. You know, we've got to have a release. And I think as men, the more we do it, just because of the stigma around kind of men's mental health, and as you said, you know, big boys don't cry. Once we're kind of being role models to our children and other people to actually say, well, do you know what, big boys do cry because we're human.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the massive healing process in mental health as it is, Lydia. You know, if we become too kind of, oh, I can't show my emotions, I can't show my emotions, then again, that feeds onto other people, and then we become a nation of holding everything up. And I think for some people, that's where it becomes more of a mental health problem, Lydia, because it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs and snowballs until breaking point for some people. And unfortunately, it pains me to say, for some people that can be suicide, or for some people that could be burnout, or, you know, kind of that stress to the point of, actually, I really do need help now. I do need help now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned before, the mind-body link is, you know, as we know in NLP, a cybernetic loop. You know, they feed into each other, and so, you know, anyone again who follows Gabor Mate will know from his Body Keeps Score that if you don't, whatever you don't deal with emotionally, either your mental health will suffer or your physical health. It comes out in one way or the other. Your body will find a way of communicating that, either physically or mentally. So, and you touched on suicide there, and I feel that it's a big one actually, that it's really important to mention, because some people are frightened of going there about talking about suicide, or particularly with their children, you know, teenagers and things, in case they implant the idea in their apologize for my cat intruding, in case we implant the idea of suicide into someone's mind. So what, you know, let's talk a little bit about that if you you know, do suspect that maybe someone might be suicidal, or you have fears around, what if I say the wrong thing, or I'm going to give them an idea of something that was never a thing for them before.
I think again, this is more and more people who come on the course, Lydia, is, you know, at the start of the course, you know, I'll ask them, so what's the one biggest takeaway you want from this course? And 9 times out of 10, people always say, I'm scared about saying the wrong thing. And again, it's about listening. It's about listening. You know, in the course I cover, you know, the acronym is CARE, so care. The C is for checking for immediate signs of suicide or self-harm, whether that's self-harm or harm to somebody else. The A is applying non-judgmental listening. The R is reassuring that, you know, it's normal for people to feel like this, and also reassuring them, well, you may not feel this way forever. There is support out there for you, you know, these kind of reassurance things with the R. And then the E is encouraging self-help strategies and professional support if needed. And when people realize that, actually, I don't need to say a lot. It's listening, because I'm not a trained expert in that field. It's about listening and supporting, and then encouraging. Okay, have you spoken to somebody regarding this? Once we start kind of picking out other people's problems based on our map of reality, Lydia, that's when it can go to a place maybe that isn't helpful. So, you know, it's a case of saying less and listening more. And again, if people are worried that somebody is suicidal, you've got to be frank with these people and say, look, you know, you've kind of mentioned there in your conversation that you're feeling suicidal. Are you feeling suicidal now? Or do you have these thoughts often? And by asking these blunt questions when it comes to suicide, I know these questions have saved lives before.
Absolutely. Because, and also, you know, if you've thought about it, have you thought about the detail of how? Because they're all clues. But I mean, I certainly, in my first aid mental health training I did, you know, we were always told that you don't give this, someone who wasn't thinking about suicide, you bringing it up isn't going to immediately go, oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. You know, you're not going to encourage someone in having that discussion. If anything, in having that discussion, they're going to feel like they're not so alone, and that's a good thing, because then you can support them in, like you say, getting more support, or just at least that they feel like there's somebody else who listens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I work with sports on a performance sense, but I've also been, you know, obviously I can't go into detail, but I've been in to support people on a personal sense because of the thoughts they are having, you know, through lockdown, you know, the pressures life throws at that some people, you know, and I always say, Lydia, for somebody to think suicide is their only option, really, you know, it's sad, you know, it's a sad place to be. And if, you know, if we can all kind of have this knowledge and understand that we don't need to be mental health experts to actually start the process in helping somebody to find professional support.
Yeah, my heart goes out to anyone in that situation.
Yeah.
And as coaches, you know, it's this, again, having awareness of this is really important, because I feel like there is a balance between recognizing where somebody's at. If someone really is at a very low ebb, immediately trying to get them into solution focused action is like, sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, people aren't always at the place ready to jump straight into solution. And so yes, it's recognizing where people are at, and then meeting them where they're at what they're ready to do, and supporting them through that. But it's not as easy just to dive straight into solutions. Sometimes there's a little bit of in between, being able to shift to that space.
Yeah, and I've had honest conversations with clients regarding that, Lydia, because again, you know, when we think mental health, the first thing people think of is, well, you need to see a therapist. Yes, you need to see a therapist, but a coach can help people with their mental health, because it might be something regarding the future or lack of focus. But I've had honest conversations with clients I've had, Lydia, and I've actually said, actually, I'm going to signpost you to a therapist, because as you very much said, Lydia, they weren't ready for that kind of thought process to move on. It was stuff they've had to kind of deal with in the past, or stuff again where, you know, I honestly said earlier, I'd need to know where my skill set ends, and then where I need to know to signpost people to. So that would have been more Lydia's area. Go speak to Lydia, you know, do your work with Lydia, but then it's great that you can coach them kind of the other side of this as well, Lydia. You know, and again, I guess as coaches, as therapists, it's about the client. It's not about us. It's not about my business. It's not about me taking your money just because I can coach anyone. It's if you know, you're here with me because of you, not because of me. And if I honestly feel that I'm not best placed to support you in how you are now, come back to me when you've spoke to the therapist, and let's get you life moving forward. Then again, you know, having this knowledge because of the courses I train, and because obviously I've gone on the courses and become a first aider myself, having that kind of knowledge of signposting has been massively beneficial to me. Because again, through lockdown, as you may have found it, Lydia, you know, for lockdown, it's been a struggle for all of us in respect, you know, for all of us. And I think, again, we were talking, our behaviours have changed, everybody's behaviours changed. It's just the thought process in people at the minute is different, because again, we've just gone through an unprecedented period of time, and it's just thrown children out, it's thrown adults out, and we're supporting children, but we don't know what's going on, and schools are closing, and work and furlough and blah blah blah, and you can see how it's just been like, oh my gosh. Oh yeah, my gosh.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the other sort of markers that I understand is around, you know, your well-being, is your ability to flex and cope with change and uncertainty. And we've had a horrendous amount of uncertainty and change thrown at us, and that lack of autonomy of being able to control our circumstances. And, you know, whilst we're out of lockdown, we're still some uncertainty, particularly going into the winter months again, as to what does the future hold. So yes, I mean, there is an element of with our behaviours and things have shifted, but there certainly have been times that's been warranted. You know, having, you know, struggling actually would be quite a normal thing for, and like you say, most people, I have not met one person, and I include myself in that hasn't struggled on some level, you know. Everybody has, potentially for different reasons, but there has been, everyone's been touched in some way. So, and you touched on there the difference between a coach and a sort of counsellor or a therapist. And yes, the framework is, a coach is solution focused and looking at the future and forward, and how do we move from A to B, from where we are now to look into the future. And counsellors are much more about understanding how I got here, you know, so it's much more past focused. So if anyone's wondering kind of where would they look at, so to go future focused, you really, the past stuff needs to not be part of the issue potentially. But yeah, some people cross over slightly between the two, that I say I'm a therapeutic coach because I have some skills that allow me to deal with past stuff.
You have a lot of skills, Lydia.
But it's recognizing your professional scope of practice, is how we say. The difference between a professional is hopefully they have, like you say, training and a framework and understanding where the boundaries are of their training, and how to support people. Lovely. Well, is there 3 top tips that you would give us then, John, for Mental Health Day coming up? What would you give as your 3 top tips?
Okay, 3 top tips. I would say exercise is crucial. And again, if for some people that word exercise is too much and they think, well, I don't exercise. Well, change that word exercise to activity. What activities do you like to do? Make them outdoors, because again, I'm a true believer in the outdoors, Lydia. So, you know, activities or exercising, I would definitely put top of the tree. Number 2, sleep. I've had about 4 hours today because my dog got sick in bed and I was then downstairs with her. So tonight I'm going to need some sleep. Yeah, sleep is crucial. And again, it's things that it's all these things that get taken for granted, Lydia, because we just do them and they're just there. But it's when we kind of consciously think about them and understand how important they are, that's when we realize all these good things contribute to good mental health. So sleep, exercise, I would say diet, Lydia, but I like my chocolate. I think, again, connecting, you know, being with people, to have fun, to speak to if we're struggling, to be present with family, to be present. I'm a very touchy person. I love my hugs, and you know, again, that was taken away through the pandemic. But you know, that connection, being connected to people, loved ones, people who make you feel good, Lydia, who support you, people who you know have got your back, and people who you want to be with, not who you're forced to be with, people who you want to be with. Because again, we're social beings, Lydia. You know, we're social beings, and surrounding ourselves with good people is good. So I'd say exercise, sleep.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, John. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and I will continue to follow your antics of what you're getting up to.
and the same, Lydia. You're doing brilliant. I love following your stuff, and yeah, fantastic. Really, thanks for inviting me onto this.
Thank you. And I will hope to catch you again soon. So thank you to everyone that's listening. I hope you found that useful. I'll pop some helpful links underneath this that you can either contact John or myself, and some other support networks that are out there. Until next time, take care.
Take care, guys.